Thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co for sponsoring today's video. Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today you can see that I'm using my VTuber model at the moment, and the reason being is that even though I'm getting a year older, let me pop this on, I thought it'd be fun to make another VTuber model, except I want to make it more smaller and cuter, because I thought it would just be fun to make one again and to play around in live 2D a little bit. But before we get to that, I think it would be nice to go through some of my older models. So I'll show you guys this one really quick. Let me get rid of my party hat and I'll show you guys. Oh, well, you guys can see it. I'll put like a PNG of myself on the side right here or something. Hopefully you guys can see that. So here's my full body model, and I think I want to make a chibi version of this specific design. But let's go through my other ones. So this is technically my first model. You can see the mouth movements very like and there's like no physics really anything on this model, so it's very like rudimentary. It's very simple and very, I don't know, I don't really like this one. I think the style looks a little bit weird too, but let's move on to the next one that I made. This one's gonna be also very weird because it's just the Masaki. So here's Masaki's model. I actually really like how I did his hair for the most part, and the mouth movement I think might be a little bit better than how I did my current model, just because of the shape. But you can see this is how he moves. The apron doesn't really make sense, but yeah, this one's Masaki. And then I made this model for my friend. I really like this one, super cute. I'll show you guys the full design really quick. Well, this is the one I made for my friend, kind of as a test, because she agreed to let me kind of make one of her own persona. So this one's really cute. Now we're back with my current model, so let's go ahead and skip to the actual artwork portion, and then I'll show you guys a little bit of the rigging and physics, and then we can go and see my new model. Okay, so for the model, we are going to be starting off with the artwork, which means that we need to do some sketching and some drawing and line work and everything, and separating the parts into everything it needs to be in. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm working in Paint Tool SAI this time because I feel the most comfortable and I work the quickest in Paint Tool SAI whenever I have to do coloring and line work together. And right now you can see that on the right side, I have my current model up just because I want to basically make a chibi version of that one, and I'm going to be using that as kind of my main reference. So for the chibi style, I am going to change it up a little bit compared to how I usually do my chibis. My chibis tend to have a larger, taller head, if anything, and then its face is a little bit, because it's on the longer side, I feel like I always give a significant amount of chin space compared to where the mouth and the eyes are. But this time I decided to squish it down just a bit, and I wanted to add a little bit of an indication of where the nose will be as well, just to help with direction whenever my chibi turns or moves its head up and down. So I'm trying to remember what I needed to think about. So in Paint Tool SAI, there is no technically a ruler setting because I am using the like version 1 of Paint Tool SAI, and to find the halfway point I made another canvas the same height but a half the width, and then I copy and pasted that to find the center of my current canvas so that we can kind of keep things at least somewhat a little bit symmetrical. I'm not too bothered by making things too symmetrical, so I'm just kind of using this as a guide and flipping when I need to. The eyes right now, so for the, I guess I'm going to talk about left and right in terms of what's on the left and the right of the canvas, and not like our left and our right kind of thing, because I do label the kind of, I guess, my layers the opposite, just because I've seen other people do that, and it seems like the naming convention works well with like VTube Studio and the Live 2D program, so that's what I've done. So the right eye is fully rendered and fully finished and separated into its appropriate parts. I merged the folder and copy and pasted it to the left hand side so that we can have kind of like a placeholder, so just I will know whether or not the chibi looks a little funky when it has kind of mirrored eyes. I'm going to pop this file into Clip Studio Paint later on so that I can flip just the whole entire folder and then shuffle around the highlights a little bit so that I know exactly that the eyes are like truly are symmetrical, so I'm not like placing things back and forth. I'm not like re-merging different layers and stuff, and it's just a lot easier because Clip Studio Paint allows you to copy like whole folders without merging them. Before we continue with the artwork of the chibi model, I wanted to let you guys know more about Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. They are snack boxes that allow you to experience Japan from the comfort of your own home, all packaged in these cute boxes. They are packed with so many snack goodies. Tokyo Treat is the heaviest Japanese snack box with 15 to 20 full-size Japanese snacks, including a Japanese exclusive drink, an instant ramen, exclusive seasonal Kit Kats, and much more. I'll show you guys all the snacks that were included in July's box. From all of these, you can see that there are so many snacks to try out and plenty of new ones that I've personally never seen before. While Sakura Co is an authentic Japanese snack box with new seasonal Japanese treats every month. This box includes Japanese teas, seasonal Japanese treats, and even Japanese home good. I always feel like Sakura Co's snack flavors tend to be my favorite and more towards my palate. Lots of new snacks and flavors to try out though. I see some waffle cookies, and I'm not sure what the larger bag is, but it seems really filled. For July's box, included was a patchwork furoshiki. Furoshiki is a traditional Japanese wrapping cloth. Centuries ago, it was used for carrying and transporting sacred objects. I didn't have a large enough box like they had in the sample photos, but from looking at this cloth, the patterning and the colors are just beautiful, and it ties really well. Both boxes come with a 24-page cultural guide, and the booklet includes information on each of the snacks in the box, including information on potential allergies and if the snack is vegetarian friendly, and any other instructions or tidbits about the snacks or the areas in Japan. For example, Tokyo Treat's box theme for the month of July is the Okinawa seaside snacking, and I know Okinawa is known for their beaches, while Sakura Co's theme is Heritage of Nikko in collaboration with Nikko City, which has majestic mountains and the essence of the revered Edo period. So to accompany with some of the snacks, I like to try out the tea that comes in the Sakura Co box. I think that they usually pair very well and cut some of that sweetness or some of the other flavors from the snacks. The tea for Sakura Co is the 88th Night Shincha, translating to new tea. Shincha refers to the first harvest of the green tea. I see from the description that it states that on the 88th day after the first spring, they are meticulously plucked. It has a profound historical significance imbued with promise of good health and longevity. I tried out the tea while sketching out some thumbnails. I also finished the rest of my soy sauce okoge meshi. I love the soy sauce flavored snacks in these boxes. They're always very tasty. I didn't show it on camera, but I also enjoyed the Thousand Samurai Procession manju. I love manju a lot, and this one in particular had a white bean paste. These are actually sold as a souvenir gift at the Toshogu Shrine in Nikko City. For Tokyo Treat, I obviously tried the Kit Kat as usual, which is cookies and cream. That is one of my favorite flavors, so I really enjoyed this one. But I also tried the Koikea salted caramel chips. Love the sweet and salty combination, so I really like this one as well. If you would like to get a box for yourself or you want to give these as a lovely gift for friends and family, then do check out the links in the description to get your snacks today. I seriously think that you will enjoy it, or even as like, you know, a birthday gift maybe. Thank you guys again, Sakura Co and Tokyo Treat, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the artwork for my chibi rig. So, usually after I finish the face and the eyes, I would work on the hair, but because the hair kind of takes a good chunk of length of the body of the chibi, I decided that I would just do her clothing first. So the bunch of different colors are actually different sections for the clothing. So you can see that it's just easier for me to visualize each part in a different color. I regret this part not being 3 separate parts, because the sweater portion I feel like I could have done closer to the right side bust, left side bust, and probably just the center portion, because I do run into a little bit of an issue when I started to use warp deformers and trying to shuffle the body to the left and the right. The triangle V-shape kind of plunge kind of prevents me with lining up things as nicely as I would have liked, but I found a workaround, so it's not too bad and not too janky. So you can see that when I'm splitting up parts, anything that has like a lot of depth, like the hoodie. We'll get to the hair as well, but there's some other parts that require you to have the front object and the back part of the object to be separate. So like the hood, I have the 2 flaps for the front part of the hood to be separate. So I have the left side of the hood, the right side of the hood separate, and then the entire back piece I also made separate. So whenever my character turns her body, I'm going to be able to scrunch and elongate or stretch the back portion to line up with the 2 parts of the hood so that it looks like one single piece. It just helps because if you don't do that, you're going to have like weird gaps here and there, and if you don't put your layers in the correct order, you're gonna have things overlapping, cutting into your model where you probably don't want things to be showing. So it's good to be meticulous about separating all of your layers and kind of your colors or anything that you need when rigging. So I definitely think it's a easier time separating your layers and all your parts once you know how you want to specifically rig your character or whatever you want to rig. I've also made the legs separate and the knees and the thighs separate, even though I don't really rig the legs that much. And if anything, I think I rigged one leg and I didn't rig the other, so I might have to go back and do that at a later point. So after I finish the kind of pretty much the clothing part and I have everything set to where I want it to be, I've also separated the parts appropriately. Zippers on a separate part, the little part attaching to the zipper is separate, each part of the leaf is separate as well. I have my clover, the neck, the turtleneck, everything is separate. Another thing that I did a little bit differently compared to my first model is that I decided to make a shadow for the face. So when my character looks up, I have kind of like this space where it kind of looks like the chin and the neck could be connecting, and then whenever my character will look left and right, I'll have an extra shadow just to indicate a little bit more of the underside of the jawline, just to give it a little bit more depth, and I think it really helps. So hair, I find, is the most tedious because clothing can be a little bit easier just because depending on how things are overlapping are quite simple, and some things don't have to be entirely like seamlessly flushed with one another just because things can be layered in clothing. But for hair, depending on how you want to rig it will depend on how many parts you're gonna need. So for me, I decided to do 3 main back pieces of my character's hair. I have the front of her hair into one gigantic bangs part, a little bit of loose strand, and then I have 2 side pieces on the left side, and then I had 3 back pieces for her skull area because I wanted to make sure I didn't have any gaps. Later on, you're gonna see me give, actually I already done it. So I also put kind of the main darkest hair color part onto her scalp as well so that we don't have any skin color showing through. And then after that, I added some more side pieces of hair that I would consider kind of like in the mid area. It's not quite in the back, but they're not quite as in the front as I would like them to be anyways. So I like to keep them in kind of like 3 different sections. And you could do it even one more section where you kind of could split into 4. So you have like your front, your sides, your back, or like the entirety of the back of the skull too, depending on how you want to part the hair. Because when your character looks downwards, most likely wherever your hair has like its part, I guess, where the hair comes out and it splits, or like, you know, where it goes in 2 different directions, usually it's exposed at that portion. So it's best to have those parts ready if need be. But if not, if you ever see a gap in your rigging, you can always update your PSD file and it'll add it into your live 2D file. So you can always add or take away parts if you don't need them in your actual model file. So, but for the most part, I like to make sure I try to get everything done at this part so I don't have to make any new assets or like any new parts at a later date. So once I learn a little bit more about how to do toggles more appropriately and just a little bit easier, I am going to be probably updating this file and adding toggles and stuff so that I can, you know, just kind of mess around with it before I make any future models or anything like that. But last but not least, so I pretty much finished the entire model. The last thing I wanted to do was doing the mouth shape, and I struggled with the mouth quite a bit because I wasn't sure if I wanted to merge the lines of where the mouth and the, like, I guess like where the lips meet, and then the little part that would block it with the skin. And I decided to keep them separate, but later on when I actually do the rigging, I think it's gonna become a problem. So now that I finished the model for the most part, I popped it into Clip Studio Paint, and you can see that I'm doing what I said before, where I decided to duplicate the whole folder. I'm messing around with the highlights and making sure that things look symmetrical but not too like bug-eyed. And then right now I'm going ahead and making sure to change everything to make sure it's labeled correctly so that I know what is what when I'm starting to rig. I pretty much did all the naming convention earlier in Tool SAI, but there's just a few stragglers here and there. Now, after the entire model is pretty much done with the artwork, we're going to go ahead and move into Live 2D. So Live 2D is the program that I think majority of people use whenever they are rigging their kind of VTuber models and stuff. So right now I opened up my old model, and basically I'm playing around with the parameters and the folders so that I can make sure things are in the right order. After that, on the left side of where the yellow manila tag-ish colors are, you can see that there's literally all the parts that I had. I think I have like 94 sectioned parts or something like that, probably at the minimum. And then I'm basically putting them into different warp deformers and rotational deformers so that I can prepare them for the different settings and the parameters that I need them to basically be set at when we actually start to rig everything. So you can see I'm slowly going through every part and then assigning them their warp deformers, their rotational deformers, or popping them into any sections that need to be appropriately sectioned so that things can move and function appropriately. Once that is all done, I'm basically going to go into the eyes first because I find I have the least amount of problems when I rig the eyes first and then do the head, because I've done it the other way where I've done the head and I've done all the angles and stuff, and then when I rig the eyes don't move along with the head. So to avoid that problem, I'm rigging the eyes first. So when rigging the eyes, I usually rig one eye first so that we can just copy and paste the eyes over so I don't have to rig the eye twice. But I'm keeping this footage in. At some point, I am going to be having to do the eye smile after I did the eye opening and closing, which is the one that I'm doing right now, and then I'll copy and paste the eyes, I'll reflect it, and then make sure that they're on their correct parameters so that I don't have to redo all the keyframes. So for the eyes opening and closing, you can see here it's finished, and then I'm copying and pasting. I'm going to get rid of my placeholder eye, by the way, even though we went through the whole process of making sure that they would kind of like on its own separate layers in the beginning. It wasn't really necessary since I was going to copy and paste it. You can see that now that they're symmetrical, I ended up forgetting to move the highlights prior, so I will do that via a warp deformer the next time rather than manually moving it for every keyframe. So now you can see that the eyes are symmetrical. Both of them have eye open, eye close, and eye smile for the left and the right. And then after that, I am going to move over to kind of like rotating the body a little bit so that it can kind of like turn side to side. So whenever my character moves a little bit, it moves to the right or moves to the left. And I didn't show it in the video because the amount of footage I had for both the drawing session and the Live 2D rigging was way too much, so I decided to cut some stuff out. I did not show me rigging the breathing or the X and the Y axis for the body. So right now we're just doing the kind of rotation of the body, and then I decided to shuffle the leg a little bit and I forgot to do the right leg, so that's gonna be a little bit awkward. But you can see that separating your parts are going to be very important. So you can see right here when I was moving the sweater body part, which is kind of like the light blue part, I was having problems aligning it with the sweater. So sometimes the sweater kind of peeks through. I'm not too bothered by it because the inside of the sweater would be blue, so maybe we'll just pretend it's another clothing fold. But yeah, separate your stuff properly so you don't run into that problem. After that, I decided to move on to the head rotation. So for the X-axis, Basically, it's turning left and right. So you want your character to face left when your key form is on the furthest left one. You want your character to turn right whenever your key form is on the right side. Then after that, we'll do up and down. We'll link them together, and then I'm gonna have to go ahead and fix the corners so that we can have like a full head rotation of my character. So this is kind of like a tedious process, but it's not too bad as long as you know how to move your deformers or how to work some of the things that you want so that they kind of read correctly when turning. So a lot of it's, for me anyways, is just squishing and squashing, like squishing and squashing and or stretching things so that they look like they're kind of in perspective of when my character turns their head or moves their head up and down. They kind of help with the illusion a little bit. Like I mentioned in the drawing phase, I added a little bit of a shadow where the chin and jawline is so that we can give it a little bit more depth. I also wanted to put a little bit of blush or indication of where my nose would be for my chibi, because when I make chibis, I never give them noses. I always gave them like just eyes and a mouth, and I know for some people it looks really off, but for me I think it looks a little bit cuter in my opinion, unless you can do the nose in a certain way where I feel like it doesn't disrupt the face too much. But for the most part, I think it was a good addition for me to add the lines and a little bit of blush there, just because it would make the face feel a little bit empty. But like I said, it kind of helps give a little bit more of an illusion that my character is turning or moving their head up and down, just because it will help a little bit for the depth. So I finished the left and the right, so we're moving to up and down. So you can see that the shadow where it's like where the chin and jaw is, it's gonna help a lot, especially when my character is gonna look upwards. But for the most part, a lot of it is just shuffling things up and down, squishing some things, kind of elongating some other things so that things read a little bit correctly. Now I forgot to make one extra layer of hair so that when my character does look down, I wanted to make sure that the scalp-ish area, which you might be able to see that is like a black line going through her hair, is still visible. So I wanted to hide that, but for the most part, because it was already colored in black and I have the scalp color to be quite dark, it doesn't read too off, so I kind of just left it in. I also forgot how I rigged the sprout on my first model, so I feel like the sprout's gonna look a little funky sometimes in some of the angles whenever I move my character's head. So after I finished the up and the down and the left and the right, we kind of linked them together so that you can move your character seamlessly around. But then after that, you're gonna have to fix the corners so that things look correct. But for the most part, it does a pretty good job of making sure that things do look correct whenever you synthesize the corners. Then after that, I did the irises so I could move the eyes like kind of in a circle for it to have enough freedom. Then after that, I decided to do the mouth. So the mouth took me the longest. I always fiddle with the mouth. I think the mouth is usually where I would like to improve the most, and I know people are gonna say, you know, add more points and, you know, fix your mesh for your mouth so that things look a little bit more smooth, but I'm very lazy, so I decided that I was not going to do that. So I did it very simply, but I decided to follow, I'll leave their stuff into the description as well, but they had like a grid of the mouth movements that they would have for certain key forms. So the little green dots on the kind of like underside of where the manila color is, there's a bunch of green dots that actually are the key forms, and for the key forms you need to basically put a different shape or whatever you want it at each key form so that things move seamlessly. So I done the rigging for the mouth 3 times and ended up with whatever I ended up with. In the future, I probably will mess around with the mesh a little bit more so that I can actually appropriately move things to look a little bit cleaner. But for now, I think it just works for what I wanted. After that, I did the hair movement a little bit, and I'm working on the physics part. So for the physics, I wanted to have the leaves on the entire design to move and sway whenever I move my body, especially if I'm moving it left and right. I decided to also put the hair on the same one. I kind of wish I kept them separate. So in the future, if I'm going to fiddle with the physics again, I'm going to move the hair separately so that they don't sway together. It'll just give it a little bit less of a boxier movement for the most part. After that, I decided to put physics in the eyes. So I'm going to be moving the highlights a little bit. So the underside of the highlight is going to move kind of like in a counterclockwise circle. I'm going to have the upper highlight move clockwise down the eye a little bit, and I'm gonna make the pink part kind of bounce up and down, and then I'm going to move my irises so that they will kind of tilt and turn, but also get a little bit larger, just because I think the subtle movement makes it a little bit cuter whenever the character blinks their eyes. Last but not least, I wanted to do glow. So glowing I never did before because I never fiddled with the opacity of things in Live 2D, but the glowing would be fun to have it with my character breathing. So now we're on to the physics. So this is the physics window. I'm going to show you guys some stuff in real time and some stuff in time lapse, so you can see how long this takes, but also how satisfying the movement is once you actually have some physics in it. So you can see my character is already breathing, moving it left and right. You can see the hair is also shuffling and swaying a little bit, but I need to fix the swaying so that it looks a little bit more natural by fixing my I believe it's like the maximum output, but you can see this looks a lot cuter. So once I move my character, you can see the sprouts and the little leaves moving. Whenever my character breathes, you can see the little clover on my neck starts to glow, and then everything else just moves along as long as I make sure to put my input to be correct and my output to be correct. And then you can play around with the duration and increasing the strength and stuff of the physics if you want to. It's just a lot of things to learn in intake, but I swear if you actually take the time to learn it, it becomes super quick from how you can rig something from 2D to make it start to actually really move, and I think it's super neat. So if you guys are ever wanting to learn about Live 2D, like I said, I'll leave resources in the description, but I definitely think it's something that people can pick up quite quickly as long as you take the time to actually learn and understand the different parts. And if you're interested in just making your art move or learning how to animate in Live 2D, I think Live 2D is very versatile and very fun. So I highly recommend checking out the pro version if you want to, or even just getting the trial version so you can play around with rigging. I think it's just a fun way to up your art and kind of take it into a different direction if you want to, because I think I spent 6 hours drawing and maybe 6 to 8 hours doing the rigging because the mouth took me way too long. So anywhere between I think 12 to 14 hours I took to spend kind of making this one model. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching today's, and we'll go to like a little mini showcase of it. So see you in a bit. I'm not sure how well you guys are going to be able to see this model, but here's the full body of my current model and kind of like the one I usually use for streaming. So let's switch over to my chibi model now that we kind of have at least like the majority of it finished. Her head's so huge. Okay. This one's really cute. I really like this one just because I feel like there's a little bit more movement. You can see a lot of the sprouts and the zipper moves quite a bit. And this one has like a really simple toggle. I think that's kind of fun. I would like to play around a little bit with more, probably with the toggles, and potentially if I can, I want to learn how to do skinning still. So you can see the little details right here. They kind of all kind of shake and move. The center part right here, you can see right here, it is glowing, and the glowing is actually timed with my breathing. So every time my breathing is triggered, the little clover part will also glow. I have my little sprout on my head to move whenever I blink. And then whenever I shake my head, it also wibbles and wobbles back and forth. And then last but not least, we have eye physics a little bit. You can see it's kind of the clover little flower design in my eyes kind of shake a little bit, and then the highlights at the top kind of shakes as well. Yeah, I think it looks really cute. I know my mouth, wow, it's a little bit janky. I think like there's a little bit more movement to it compared to before. Yeah, I think this turned out really cute. I actually really like how there's like a lot of movement, the zipper, and then like the little leaves, I think looks super cute. The hair moves a little bit here and there. I did have a little bit of issues with how the physics work, just because I think the maximum output keeps like maxing out to a certain part where it doesn't function like entirely clean. So I feel like the hair and stuff kind of doesn't wobble and sway as nicely, but I'll see if I can remedy that. But you can see like the small movements in my hair, the sprout parts and all that. I can lean this way, I can lean this way, up, down. Whee! But yeah, that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Yes. Okay, bye-bye.